Every brand tells a story. And they are the storytellers. The Sutradhars. They present a brand with band, baja and barat to you. They are the Brandwallahs. He heads marketing for India's largest non-bank private sector life insurance company. Rahul Talwar, Chief Marketing Officer of Axis Max Life Insurance. With over 2 decades of experience across leading brands like PepsiCo, United Biscuits, and the Aditya Birla Group, Rahul brings a rare blend of strategic vision and consumer insights. At Axis Max Life, he has been the driving force behind the brand's transformation, leading the rebranding journey, launching the Double Bharosa campaign, and championing digital-first AI-powered outreach. A storyteller at heart and a data-driven leader, Rahul believes in building trust through purpose-led marketing. He is our Brandwallah.
Life insurance prior to that was an uncertainty event, but as a protagonist or as an individual, one would feel that nothing would happen to me, something could happen to somebody. We started this entire journey of trying to be one of the best partners for our customers on claims, and emotively we started calling this as not a claim number, but we said let's add more emotions to it, and we called it Bharose Ka Number.
You are watching the Brandwallahs. I am Krishnakumar and we are in conversation with Mr. Rahul Talwar, Chief Marketing Officer of Axis Max Life Insurance. Rahul, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us here on the Brandwallahs. Nice space you've got here, first of all.
Thank you so much.
Office, a refreshed new brand, originally an insurance brand with over 2 decades of legacy, now refreshed recently. Talk to us, what is it like being in the insurance business in India and marketing, insurance products to the Indian consumer?
Well, first, thanks for having me here. I think to be a part of the rich Brandwallahs roster, I think it's a nice space to be in. Well, interestingly, Krishna, as you pointed out, insurance and life insurance is an interesting space to be in. Okay. And specifically for somebody like me, who's done product advertising, product communication and marketing prior, to come into a space where we are talking about life insurance. We're talking about not impulse, but long format engagement with our prospects, with our customers in that sense. So it's been an interesting journey. I think what we have realized and what my learning curve has been at Axis Max Life Insurance, and like you rightly pointed, refreshed Axis Max Life Insurance. Had you made me a Brandwallah prior to December, I would have been Max Life Insurance. but now I'm here sitting as Axis Max Life Insurance. I think the biggest point on the learning curve has been that a category may look passive from the outside, or a product like life insurance may look passive from the outside. But once you're in it and once you realize the inherent importance of any insurance, but more importantly life insurance, I think it just makes you believe that okay, you are in a category where there's gravitas, there's substance, and there is material importance to the entire livelihood of a household in that sense. And again, these 7 odd years in this category and on this brand has also had, much like all of us, this entire fillip, or I would say an odd experience of a pandemic, which is, by the way, just given us signals which are far beyond. Because life insurance prior to that was an uncertainty event, but as a protagonist or as an individual, one would feel that nothing would happen to me, something could happen to somebody. But I think the minute the entire pandemic headwinds, that entire uncertainty came real. I think everybody just soaked in this entire piece that uncertainty can come to anyone, anywhere, anytime.
Any insurance company that you're talking to consumers about something that is meant to worry them, but at the same time you can't be seen as scaremongering, and also in that sense your entire marketing and branding exercise needs to be experimental, but at the same time be extremely sensitive, isn't it?
So I think three vectors on that, Krishna, if you were to double click it and figure out as to how we do it at Axis Max Life Insurance. One, like you rightly pointed towards, this entire piece around life insurance and fear of death. I think that needs to go on a pause and completely be let go of it, because culturally, if you were to look at the mood of the nation, if you were to look at this entire way the aspirations are looking around, and also the relative youngsters that are coming into the category, I think what we have realized is that fear mongering or fear of death versus talking about a positive narrative on life. I think that's one shift that we have made. Second, if you were to look at this entire category at a fundamental level, it stands on something which is very basic, yet I think evolves over time. That's trust. And how do you get trust to be something that's earned and not spoken about? In today's day and age, and because of the kind of work that you do, you would have seen that an individual or an enterprise cannot today advertise about trust. You need to have trust being delivered across many touch points, experiences, interactions, conversations, and Axis Max Life Insurance has fundamentally tried to do both these things together, about a positive narrative about life and why life insurance, and second, try and imbibe trust through various things that we do, whether it's in terms of our conversations, in terms of top of the funnel, whether it's about this entire piece around claims, because claims is a very moment of truth phenomena for our category.
Correct.
And there is, in lighter vein, there's a saying that I always say in such conversations: life insurance is best bought yesterday. and if you were to buy it actually yesterday and at the right age, you could be my customers for 40 years. So imagine I have to keep you engaged and I have to keep you conversational for 40 years. And at the end of 40 years, fingers crossed for an unforeseen scenario, the person who may be consuming the experience may not necessarily be the person who's actually bought the product. And hence, trust needs to be a long-lasting process in this journey.
Wow. Make a fair point.
And we call it, and in our parlance, we call it bharosa. Because we've realized that we need to make it more emotional, we need to make it more personal.
Okay.
And the minute you start talking about bharosa, I think it just tucks to the heart and makes that conversation that much more emotive.
Talk to us, what is some of the best campaigns that you've worked on, that you've been a part of, that you thought hit the nail on the head absolutely?
So again, picking up from this conversation of claims and bharosa, I think what we realized, say if I have to dial back about 5 to 7 odd years, that we need to be able to differentiate the brand on this platform called claims, and in turn start earning bharosa. There is this manufacturer's currency in this category which is highly regulated, which stands as a claims paid ratio, that in the moment, if X number of people are coming to me to take the claim, how many am I processing and giving claims to? And back in 2019 is where the then Max Life Insurance enterprise, or now as we say Axis Max Life Insurance, we started this entire journey of trying to be one of the best partners for our customers on claims. And emotively we started calling this as not a claim number, but we said let's add more emotions to it, and we called it Bharose Ka Number. Because we said a percentage claims number is incidental to the emotion called claims. And over these last 7 odd years, we've built this platform called Bharose Ka Number, or as India Ke Bharose Ka Number, because what that allows us to do, it allows us to take stature. It allows us to also talk about the fact that we are not about a number, we are about an emotion. And in an unforeseen scenario, the nominee or the claimant from that relationship is more about an emotional conversation.
Right.
We've just doubled it up in the world of Axis Max Life Insurance when we refreshed our brand in December 24 by saying that we are not just about bharosa, but we are actually about double bharosa. Why double bharosa? Because 2 mammoth subject matter expert brands in this ecosystem called Max Life Insurance and the Axis franchise, we are coming together So we are there with our partners that much more in our commitment towards customer obsession, and I think the entire narrative around this, Krishna, I think is something that I feel fairly happy about. In the journey to make it more attractive to our audience, and in the Brandwallahs language, we topped it up with a very strategic partnership with Rohit Sharma as our brand ambassador. And why it's important is not because we did an endorsement with Rohit Sharma, but because we realized that, Krishna, we are talking to young families, and we are talking to families because they understand life insurance best given the kind of responsibility frame that they have. And in the flow of this conversation, we also picked up a very strategic insight that the role of women in financial planning, Krishna, is becoming more and more important, and they are not anywhere now in the backstage. And that's not only because of some women being working women, but also active homemakers. And which is why when we looked at this young family bharosa narrative coming together, we said, yes, we need, say, a brand endorsement partner in Rohit Sharma, but we need him with his real wife. And that's when we brought even Ritika Sajde on board. So today, when you look at the narrative from Axis Max Life Insurance, going back to my first point, it's positive, it's about a young family, it talks about life expansion and not cocooning about life risks only, and more importantly, it talks in a language which appeals to various audiences, whether Gen Z, whether millennials, or whether a little late millennials in that sense.
What is your marketing mix like? Because we live in the ultimate multi-platform age. Traditionally, we're always in multi-platform because radio, print, and TV always existed.
Absolutely.
But now you have digital, and digital means multiple social media platforms. You're talking about Gen Z. How do you get people's attention and engage them? And what is your marketing mix like? How much goes into traditional forms of advertising like newspapers and TV advertisements, and how much of it goes into online?
I think you rightly pointed out. First, I think whatever we do at Axis Max Life Insurance, much like, say, any scale business or any scale retail business, we do screen agnostic planning. Because what we have fundamentally realized is that across many stratas that are available across various geographies, multiple screens is a reality that we have to acknowledge as marketeers, one. Second, what we have also been able to do on the content side is, Krishna, that versus advertising or communication being a one-way monologue, we have tried to make most of the content conversational. Because what we have realized is that the minute you go down conversational route, a lot of incremental cohorts start coming into the conversation. Third, to your point on traditional versus digital, I think within the screen agnostic principle, we try and catch them where they are. Yes, by design, there's going to be a much more skew towards digital. But again, we know that there is a role for air cover coming in from television. There's equally a role, by the way, in our category of a traditional print media. Why? Because we are still a category that gets consumed via the advisors or relationship managers, as we call them, as sellers. So when they are sitting across, assuming the two of us are sitting across in a conversation between an advisor and a prospect, they would necessarily need to carry the credentials of the brand and the category via, say, a print media, because that's highly relevant in those markets per se. So again, to a brand manager's delight, if I was to say, we do screen agnostic planning, we do multiple medias per se. What's changed in the 20 years that I've seen evolution happen is what was not measurable earlier, it has now become highly measurable thanks to this entire advent of vectors coming in from the digital space. Because we have realized that there are signals that we pick up, there are data points that we pick up, and even now traditional media mix like television, print, radio is also driving measurability.
But percentage-wise, how much of your spends go into traditional and then?
So broadly, if you were to start, we start with the principle of trying to balance it out.
50-50?
To start with, but when we go back and start nuancing the plans for optimum deliveries, we could be about, say, a 60-40 skew towards digital to traditional.
Oh, which means 40% for traditional funds that are running 60% for...
That's also because, Krishna, the category today has also seen a massive blow-up of the entire digital direct-to-consumer business. Today, Axis Max Life Insurance holds a pioneer position in the D2C space. So yes, you may know of an aggregator business by the name Policy Bazaar that's highly active in the entire insurance space.
Yeah.
But if you were to come closer home to life insurance, Axis Max Life Insurance, with its, say, few big competitors, is owning the leaderboard on the direct-to-consumer business.
Which means directly people log onto your website and buy the policies.
Absolutely.
according to you, is the big buzz as far as the world of branding and marketing and advertising is concerned?
Why don't I ask you the reverse question? Have you heard of Gen Z being the big buzz across all your Brandwallahs?
No, Gen Z is the big buzz for any content consumption per se,
So I think what we have seen again, relevant to say Axis Max Life Insurance or life insurance as a category, I think we've seen largely, if you were to look at buzz in say a three-dimensional way, we have looked at the Gen Zization of the category as say one of the big buzzes going around. Why? Okay. Again, going back, life insurance best bought yesterday, so catch them young.
And Gen Z is responding to that.
And Gen Zs are responding to signals. I think what is important to note is they're responding to signals.
Okay.
I think it's for the category and for the manufacturers like ourselves to be able to ensure that they start consuming this category, they start coming closer to the category and then start buying the category. I think that's the responsibility on us. That's one. Second, within the world of Gen Zs and even millennials and say all the cohorts across, I think personalization is a huge buzzword that we've picked up. From an enablement frame, if I was to look at it as an enabler, which is going to come and disrupt, I think there is more work to do around this entire Gen AI space because Gen AI is going to maybe evolve the way we look at content, the way we develop content. The marketing ecosystem is going to see a bit of this shift, push and pull between marketing agencies and in sourcing of content. So I see Gen AI more as an enabler, but the two buzzwords in my mind would be this Gen Zization and this personalization, customization.
Gen Zization is something that, for the first time, I think that term is being coined at least, I'm trying to grapple with that, and it's a fair point actually, and Gen Zization is happening not just for insurance, across products and services actually, and I love how you say manufacturer instead of saying service provider. What, according to you, is overhyped in the world of advertising and marketing and branding, and hence is actually quite blah?
I think the catch-22 is going to be between the role of marketing as communication providers and as communication engines for a business versus marketing being a growth driver. I think if you were to look at how marketing has evolved over these many years and specifically in the last maybe 5 to 7 odd years is about the fact that today marketing is just not a content provider engine for a business or in the traditional world advertising creators. I think anything that drives growth. Growth could be driven by pure advertising, growth could be driven by content, growth could be driven by a social media platform. Growth, by the way, could also be driven by what happens on the ground in terms of experiential in that sense. So I fundamentally believe that this entire blah, if at all we have to, is to shed off this entire advertising stroke communication overhyped tag of this function or of this talent. And I think there needs to be recognition to the fact that yes, that's a part of what we do, but that's not the only thing that we end up doing as say a fraternity or as a function for an enterprise.
What kind of generative AI tools do you use on a daily basis in your work?
So again, there are umpteen number of tools that we end up using, but I'll maybe give you a thematic answer to that. I think what we have realized over time that this entire strategic play of insourcing of content and that too for a category, Krishna, which is a nice blend of B2B and D2C, and there is this entire expectation which is right size to having a high churn of content for our sellers, for our customers, for our D2C platforms in that sense. So what we have done internally is to be able to carve out a specific capacity which is being tasked with experimenting with all tools available. And yes, to be able to ensure that whether it's static, vernacular, video, whether it's static to video, whether it's this entire piece of looking at high churn of Insta Reels for that matter, can we have that kind of a capability being made available inside and have Gen AI tools being able to make it more efficient? Now, why is efficient, quote unquote? Again, I'm sure your Brandwallahs would have alluded to it. We are one function, by the way, in any enterprise which necessarily does not get tagged as the most efficient function. So if Gen AI allows us to make it efficient, why not? We'll be a CFO's delight.
What is that one advertisement or brand campaign or marketing campaign that really stuck with you, that inspires you in what you do? That all-time favorite ad campaign?
I think two of them. One of them I picked up more as a viewer or as a consumer back then, and the second one is more closer to my heart when it comes to my own marketing career. I'm alluding to this entire phenomena of how Pepsi as a brand started working around cricket as a platform, and the entire piece from 1996 of Ye Dil Mange More, nothing official about it, to how the brand was able to embrace this entire phenomena of the cricketing fever in the country. And as luck will have it, while I was on the PepsiCo portfolio and I was working on brand Lay's back in 2011, I was able to put out a big body of work around the big 2011 World Cup. And while there was a cricketing World Cup happening in the cricket ground, Lay's at back then was doing a Flavors World Cup where we had again international flavors from various teams.
I actually remember that Caribbean.
So there was a Caribbean, Sri Lankan, Indian, England, West, and as luck will have it, while again the Flavor World Cup back then was being voted by again customers and consumers, and as India versus Sri Lanka was played on 2nd April in the cricketing final, the final on the Flavor World Cup on Lay's was being played again between India and Sri Lanka.
Wow.
So that was a big coincidence. But yeah, coming back to another brand that gives us a bit of a library to work with in terms of how to own the category, how to own the occasion, how to own the moments. I think our brands like Cadbury, I think again how they have incrementally been able to come into our lives, being somebody as a part of a culture who have a sweet tooth, but more on the traditional side, to suddenly have a product like chocolates coming and taking over all those moments.
Any particular campaign like the Kuch Meetha Ho Jaye?
Shubh Aaramb, Kuch Meetha Ho Jaye, Kuch Meetha Ho Jaye ka the entire latitude across the day and across the relationships is something that stays in my mind.
And what a success those campaigns have done, huh?
All of them, and iconic. And I worked on a biscuit category, which is say a little closer to how chocolates does, and I used to consume exactly how the narrative was. There's another category and a roster of brands that's always stayed with me as a marketer.
Okay.
Is this entire play on the sports athletics side? Is this play between Nike, Adidas, and Reebok back in 2000s?
Okay.
Where there was a Reebok #1 in India used to say, "I am what I am." Adidas globally used to say impossible is nothing, and Nike used to say just do it.
Yeah.
And they were still talking to a similar mindset, but in a very proprietary way, and they all had a very ownable share in the mind. And I know till date, legacy, there are individuals who may necessarily have all three brands in their consumption pattern, but for different reasons.
So I
think those are things that stayed with me. So yeah, Pepsi more closer to the heart, Lay's for sure. Cadbury's a marquee example to have.
Rahul, what is the one thing about your job that you love the most? The one thing that, every morning when you wake up, and okay, that's what I'm going to go to work for.
That's exactly what you're doing with me right now, storytelling. And that's how I like to, by the way, introduce myself. I never end up introduce myself as a business leader or as a marketer. I end up saying that I am a storyteller for life till date, because I think that's what excited me. In fact, the big shift that happened for me from my sciences career to where I am today is...
So you were originally a science student?
I was a science student. I did bachelor's in science. I did almost finished master's in science, and that to a subject like physics, before hopping on to say that maybe science is what gives me logic, but what should give me magic is this art of storytelling.
What a changeover.
And that's where the switch happened. And to me and my team internally at Axis Max Life Insurance, I end up talking a lot about this logic and magic. Well, I think that's what even the function is evolving to. No longer we are qualitative, subjective, just about creative magic. There is a lot of logic, math, science, measurability being dovetailed into it to be able to become a growth function.
Then what is the one thing about your job that you don't like the most? We don't like using the word hate on the show, it's too big a word. So what is the one thing about your job that you detest the most? The one thing that you don't look forward to at all?
Indecision or having a position on a particular...
Indecision from whose end?
Indecision from, not from my end per se, but if you were to look at, say, a particular work stream, and invariably if we have to keep discussing and iterating it without knowing when to decide, when to go live, when to take action, I think it tends to sap out my energy for sure. In that sense, and with one of my erstwhile managers, I picked up this line that he used to say, and I used to then suddenly relate to myself that what I used to call indecision is what that other gentleman used to say, done is better than perfect. So I used to say, and I say this to my team day in, day out, done is better than perfect. Perfect is ideal, done is real. Let's do the real, learn, and get to the ideal.
Eventually we'll get to that perfection that we're looking forward to. But if you don't do anything, how do you even figure out how you're going to get to that perfection?
Absolutely, and I think that, again, as marketeers who are storytellers, we're able to join the dots on some things which is far more hidden. I think that's the job for us and for talents like ourselves to be able to ensure that we aid decision making, we take the ball forward, and I'm happy to say that drive for perfection, but done is better than perfect.
Okay. Where do you see marketing headed in the near future? Because they say the kind of evolution and churn that marketing has seen in the last 5 odd years, it hasn't seen in the last 50 years, because of many reasons. There's the pandemic, there's a technology, cutting edge technology, AI, and so many factors going into it. Where do you see it going in the near future?
I think there's going to be a balance between adopting technology, adopting, say, the Gen AI or equivalent tools, trying to balance out this digital versus traditional. But I fundamentally believe that there's going to be a nice balance between what I say is data and the gut of a marketer.
Okay.
I fundamentally believe that it may seem in the short term that marketing as a function is moving more towards data and is moving only towards data.
Yeah.
But I would say that there would eventually come a state of balance between what data will take us towards and what a marketeer's gut, which again comes in from experience, from consumption, from a lot of storytelling ideas, whether in India or whether across the board. I think that's one part. And the second bifocal dimension of marketing is going to be that it's going to become an absolutely growth function for any enterprise. And if it doesn't become a growth function, then I don't think it should be called marketing, it should just be a communications function for the enterprise.
Okay, so now marketing equals growth, basically.
Absolutely.
All right, Rahul, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for taking time out to be with us here on the Brandwallahs.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.